Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Reviews. Today I'll be talking about Catherine Full Body on the Nintendo Switch. Catherine features a great variety of art styles, all of which are executed to perfection in my opinion. I really don't have anything to complain about. Well, you know what? Strike that. I guess if I had to choose one minor complaint visually, it would unfortunately be during the gameplay segments. I feel like the polygons are maybe a little bit jagged, more so than they need to be on the Switch. I feel like the Switch could have done a better job with just cleaning up the polygons and maybe the textures a little bit during the gameplay segments. But stylistically, the game is very impressive. And we'll get to more about that later on in the show here. But for now, let's start with the obvious, which is, what the hell? Is that one of them hentai games? No, it's not. Excuse my extremely ridiculous attempt at a southern accent. But anyways, no, this is not a hentai game. Catherine is, in fact, a real video game with a real story and a lot of, as I said earlier, a lot of real style and personality. It's really, in many respects, a very charming game. The characters are pretty interesting. The gameplay is not just an afterthought like it might be in one of those style of games, which admittedly, truth, I've never played a hentai game before, but my guess is that the gameplay is probably little to nothing. And there is a game here. There's a real, I guess you could call it an action puzzle game, though I will say that in my opinion the gameplay is one of the weaker elements of this game, which probably means that I think this game is trash, right? No, actually. While the gameplay is essentially a 3D box pushing puzzle, and it's more nuanced than that, but if you break it down, that's really what it comes down to. And I know that doesn't sound terribly exciting, but the overall package here is fairly quality. The story is not just some juvenile dating sim. I know that it would be very easy to jump to that conclusion after you take a quick glance at it, but no, it very much is not that. Catherine deals with ideas such as commitment, infidelity, hedonism, guilt, temptation, moral failings, and the list goes on. It's truly a pretty interesting game. And I think that players of all ages may find Catherine's story to be pretty thought-provoking, or maybe nostalgic for an earlier time in one's life, depending on your age, a time when, in one's early adulthood, when you are kind of confused and you're overwhelmed by choices and what is the right thing to do, what do I want to do, etc. These sorts of inner conflicts. So whether you are a young adult and you're kind of going through some of that right now, or perhaps you're a bit older like myself and you can recall a time when you very much did not have anything figured out, and you were in the process of doing just that. So regardless of age, though obviously this is not going to be for young children, they may not be able to do the puzzles, and they certainly won't understand the story or be drawn to it, I wouldn't think. But I don't have any kids, so I don't really know. I think most people could find something compelling about Catherine's story, though. As I've said, the characters are pretty interesting and likable. They've got a lot of personality. The dialogue is, in my opinion, maybe not the tippy top tier in terms of video game dialogue, but I would say that it is. The dialogue in Catherine is probably among the upper tiers of video game dialogue. And so in that sense, it does give me a certain Quentin Tarantino vibe, or to bring it back to the world of video games, kind of a Suda51 vibe, similar to No More Heroes by Suda51, and in some of his other games, as well as the film work of Quentin Tarantino. Catherine here is just overflowing with style and personality, and at times feels really reminiscent of 1970s cinema in the best possible way. Just like those games and those movies also do. Now, I will say that I like No More Heroes much, much better, because in that case, I also love the actual gameplay itself. It's not the most complex fighting system, but it's got enough going on that it's interesting and it's satisfying. It's a good time. But and just to be clear, that is No More Heroes, not Catherine. Anyway, look, I am unlikely to play through Catherine time and again over the years. Like, I'm probably done with it, to be honest with you. It's a pretty chunky install, like fairly, it's 14 or 15 gigs. So I've already uninstalled it, not because I think it's total garbage or anything, but just because it's a big chunk of space, and I don't see, while this is a quality product, I don't see myself coming back to it again and again. I kind of saw what it had to offer. It was entertaining. It was interesting, like I said, thought-provoking at times, but I'm kind of done with it. But I do think that it's worth experiencing at least once if this looks or sounds interesting to you, especially if you can get it on sale, I would say. Now, Catherine, just a quick little bit of history on Catherine. This game was originally released during the Xbox 360 era, and it probably saw a release on PS3. I can't 100% vouch for that. I didn't have a PS3, but I'm sure you probably know whether it was on there or not. I'm inclined to say that it probably was. But anyway, that was, in my opinion, that was an interesting time in video game history in which the indie scene, really opened up on the eShops on those systems during that generation. And that's when indie games really started to explode, into the marketplace. And along with that, because Catherine, I would say, is closer to more of a AAA style game. It was a full retail release and all of that. But the point being that was during a time when, the indie, like I said, the indie scene was exploding. And so, but that had a larger effect in that it was a time period in which chances were being taken. Every game that was released wasn't like a safe bet. It wasn't and I'm sure that's probably still true today, but it just felt like a very experimental, explorative, kind of artistic time for the video game market. And so that's where Catherine basically comes from. That's kind of the context in which it was released, just to give you a better idea about that. And okay, so to be fair, I probably should have led with that. I feel like that does add, well, a lot of context to the overall review. Anyways, Catherine normally retails for $49.99 on the eShop, which, again, while this is a quality product, it, like I said, does not really rise to the level of something like the No More Heroes games for me. And I don't feel like this is worth $50, regardless of whether this looks and sounds like it's your cup of tea or not. Put it on your wish list and wait for a sale. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even then, like I said, only if this seems appealing to you. All right, well, look, I'm going to wrap it up there. I thank you guys for watching. Please click like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time, whenever that may be. Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.